Good morning, students. Welcome to the class on spectroscopy. Today, we will look at isotopic ratio data, that is, how it is useful for identification of organic compounds from mass spectrometry. So, this class is conducted uh, to give you some important topics on mass spectrometry. What is mass spectrometry? When we supply high energy to the compound will undergo ionization, subsequently fragmentation. So it is not like other spectroscopic techniques where we can recollect the sample after analysis, but here we cannot recollect the sample. So that is why it is called mass spectrometry. It is a destructive technique. It is a destructive technique. So sample cannot be isolated. Basically, mass spectrometry has 5 components. A mass spectrometer will have 5 components. One is sample inlet, second ion source, and third mass analyzer, fourth detector, and fifth data system. That means a computer. So this is the basic construction of a mass spectrometer. For example, this is the first part, this is the second part, ion source. Then we will have third part, mass analyzer. Then fourth part, detector. It will be ended here. Then data will be transferred to system. Generally, we apply very high vacuum from ion source to detector to avoid unnecessary ions. Okay. Of course, here also we do apply vacuum, but it is not a very high, it is a low vacuum. So what we will do, we will inject the sample here. Generally, we can analysis gas samples, liquid samples, or solid samples using mass spectrometer. Mostly mass spectrometer is used to identify organic and biological molecules, polymers. What we will do, we will inject this sample here, then it will be vaporized, then it will be ionized. That means it is made into ions. So it is always better to use low volatile samples. Of course, high volatile samples can also be analyzed, but a sensitive mass instrument will always use troubles when we use high volatile compounds. So it is always suggested to use low volatile samples like gas or liquids which are having low boiling points. I don't go much deep into the mass spectrum or mass spectrophotometer. I'll just give you how we analyze them. When we inject the sample, it will undergo ionization. When we inject the sample into mass spectrometer, it will undergo ionization. Then when it enters into the ion source, when it enters into the ion source, what will happen? the compound is made into ionization. Somehow we will supply either chemical energy or electrical energy or high pressure or thermal energy, so that our compound will be ionized. Then we also supply very high energy. So this ionization leads to fragmentation. Ionization leads to fragmentation. That means the initially generated ion will further undergo decomposition. So it will be made into smaller pieces. So in the ion source, what will happen? The given sample will be ionized. Subsequently, it will undergo fragmentation. Then in the third part, what will happen? These generated ions or fragments, they will be separated according to their mass to charge ratio. According to their mass to charge ratio, m by z values. As we all know, high mass compounds will move very slowly, whereas low mass compounds will move very fastly. So according to their mass, low mass ions will be moving fast, then high mass, then still higher mass. So in the analyzer, what will happen? These ions are separated according to their mass by charge ratio values. Then they will reach the detector. Of course, detector will detect the signals and it will give information to the computer. Now, what is the accuracy of the mass spectrum? You know, we can detect even a single ion that strikes the detector. So mass spectrometer is equipped with such a great detectors which will detect even a single ion, and we will have multipliers, intensity multipliers, either current multipliers or yeah, generally we will have current multipliers. So ion carries electric charge. So this current electric charge carried by the single ion will be further multiplied, and that will give the signal to detector. So mass instruments are very accurate and very you know, even a single ion can be detected. So that is why the sample requirements, it is even less than 1 milligram. It is just less than 1 milligram. Okay, even maybe 0.001 milligram also is enough to identify the compounds using mass spectrometer. So such a great instrumentation technology it is. Now, how these charged particles will be generated? Now we will look at that point. When a compound is supplied 3 electron volts, generally it gives out an electron because it is the ionization energy. It is the typical ionization energy values for this. So this is called radical cation. It is called radical cation. Right. For example, if you say some compounds may have higher ionization energy, you can go for supplying 15 electron volts. So when you supply 15 electron volts, I'm sure all the molecules will release one electron, so that they will generate radical cations. Generally in mass spectrum, what we will do, we will supply 70 electron volts. Compare 15 and 17. When we supply 70 electron volts, it is a huge amount of energy. So it obviously ionizes the molecule, and at the same time it leads to fragmentation. The generated ion will further undergo fragmentation because of the availability of very high energies. Now, in the analyzer, what will happen? In the analyzer, what will happen? Apply we will apply vacuum here. When we apply vacuum, what will happen? Pure radicals and neutral molecules and negatively charged. Negatively charged. All these molecules will be washed away by vacuum. Then what is there? Here we have only positively charged molecule ions. So in the analyzer, only positively charged ions are there. All other atoms or radicals or negatively charged ions, they will be washed away by vacuum. So that is why we are applying very high vacuum in the instrument. Then we also apply potential differences among the analyzer compartment. So when we apply potential differences, for example, if we apply negative negative electrode here, then these positive electrons will be activated or accelerated towards the negative charge. So this, so they will pick up some momentum. So that momentum will be enough to reach these molecular ions to reach the detector. So with that momentum, these ions will reach the detector. Right. Now we will look at a modal mass spectrum. Here we take relative abundance on y-axis. On x-axis, we take mass by Z values. Then, when we are supplying 70 electron volts, what will happen? The molecule will be ionized first. So the right end, the last peak in the right side, it is called molecular ion peak. It is called molecular ion peak. Why we call it as molecular ion peak? Because generally in the mass spectrum, the generated ions will be +1 in charge. They will have +1 positive charge. So when we have mass by Z, m by Z, when we have m by Z values, what we are taking? Z is +1. Z is 1. So that means m by Z nothing but m. So when we initially generated radical cation, its mass is nothing but mass of the molecule, right? So this radical cation mass is nothing but mass of the molecule because it is having only +1 charge. So the right side last peak, it is generally called as molecular ion peak. And in the spectrum somewhere, we will have some most abundant peak. That means a stable ion will be observed that will have high intensity, very high intensity. So this stable ion is called as base peak. Generally we will pick up one tallest peak, that is what is called base peak. We will give a relative intensity of 100%. We will give relative intensity of 100%. That means the height of the base peak is given 100%. Then the relative intensities of other peaks, they will be measured with respect to base peak. So with respect to base peak, for example, say it is 30%. So what is the intensity of molecular ion peak? It is 30% with respect to base peak. With respect to base peak. So the right side last peak is called as molecular ion peak. The peak which is having very high intensity, it is called base peak. And we also have many peaks in between these molecular ion peak. These are called, all these peaks are called fragmentation peaks or fragmented ion peaks. Fragmented ion peaks. So when we are supplying 70 electron volts, what will happen? The molecule not only ionizes, it will further undergo decomposition. That means it will be converted into small ions. So that is what is called fragmentation. So the ions will also be detected. These are called fragmented ions. These are called fragmented ions. Now, apart from these basic peaks, we also have small peaks. we also have small peaks. These are called isotopic peaks. These are called isotopic peaks. What are isotopes? Isotopes generally, for example, if hydrogen is there, its isotopes are deuterium and tritium. So isotopes generally differ in mass by either 1 unit or 2 units. So if you take molecular ion peak is as M peak, then isotopic peaks, we will call them as M plus 1 peak, M plus 2 peak, something like that. If mass difference is 1, it is called M plus 1 peak. If mass difference is 2, it is called M plus 2 peak. If mass difference is 3, it is called M plus 3 peak. So apart from these larger peaks, we also have small peaks which arises due to the presence of isotopes. Due to the presence of isotopes, these are called isotopic peaks. Isotopic peaks are very important in identifying the molecular formula or in identifying the structure of the compounds. And these fragmentation is also important in identifying the structure. Even nowadays, people are using this fragmentation pattern to devise the synthesis of a molecule. So a molecule will be taken, its mass spectra will be analyzed, then its synthesis can be identified. You know, when we attach all these peaks, we will end up with the molecular ion peak. So that is why it is used for devising the synthesis. Generally, these fragmentation peaks, they will have a lifetime of less than 10 power minus 6 seconds. So the generated molecular ion or fragmented ions, they will have a lifetime of 10 power minus 6 seconds, so that they can easily reach the detector. But if the lifetime is generally greater than 10 power minus 6. If the lifetime is around 10 power minus 6 seconds, then the generated fragment ion cannot reach the generated fragment ion cannot reach the detector. So in between, it will undergo disintegration further. In between, it will undergo disintegration. So such peaks are called as metastable peaks. Such peaks are called as metastable peaks. So in a mass spectrum, we generally have molecular ion peak, fragmented ion peaks. All other peaks are called fragmented ion peaks. The tallest peak is called mass base peak. Then we also have isotopic peaks, which differ in mass by 1 unit or 2 unit. Then a metastable peak, which will generally observed as a broad peak. Metastable peak is very unstable, so we will observe it as a very broad peak. Now we will look at the structural information that we can get from isotope ratio data. So for this, I have given this material yesterday itself. I hope you all have gone through this material. Now just let me just quickly go through this isotopic ratio data. Hydrogen, whose mass is 1, its relative abundance is 100%, whereas its isotope deuterium, whose mass is 2, its relative abundance is just 0.016 percentage. Remember, all these values are in percentages. You may not require to remember their values, but you need to remember the relative abundances. For example, carbon 12, which is available 100% in nature, whereas its isotope carbon 13 is available only in 1.08%, or we can generalize it into 1.1%. Similarly, nitrogen 14, 100% is available, nitrogen 15.38% is available. Oxygen 16, 100% is available, whereas oxygen 17.04%, oxygen 18.2% is available. Similarly, fluorine 19 is 100%, it doesn't have any isotopes. Chlorine has two isotopes, 35, chlorine 35 and chlorine 37, chlorine 35 is 100% available, chlorine 37 is 33% available. So that means if you take a chlorine sample, out of the 100%, 67% is 32 and 33% is this is 35, 37. So generally we say the mass of chlorine is 35.5. Why? Because two molecules are 67, two molecules are 35, one molecule is 37. So the average is 35 plus 35 plus 37 by 3. So when you take the average, we will get 35.5. So it is basically because of the ratio of isotopes. Similarly, bromine also has two isotopes, 79 and 81. Both of them will appear, will be present in 1:1 ratio. So bromine 79 isotope available in 100%, bromine 81 available in 90%. So when we talk about atomic mass of bromine, we say 80. Why? The average, because it is available in 1:1. So 79 plus 81 by 2, the average is 80. So that is why we say the atomic mass of bromine is 80. Iodine has only one isotope. Sulfur has three isotopes which are available: sulfur 32 100%, sulfur 33 0.78%, sulfur 34 4.4%. So this we can generalize it as 0.8. Okay. Now, how do we utilize this isotopic ratio data to identify the compounds from mass spectrometer? You know, we can identify the intensities of M and M plus 1 peaks. So I hope you all have gone through the material, so I'm not spending much time on it. From this isotopic ratio data, what we can do, we can calculate the relative intensity of M plus 1 peak with respect to M peak. We can calculate the relative intensity of M peak. So the relative intensity of M plus 1 peak is equal to number of carbons into its carbon isotope. Carbon 13 availability is 1.1%. Similarly, if you have hydrogens in the compound, then number of hydrogens into its isotope is 0.16% available. So the number of hydrogens and 0.016%. So here also we are saying relative intensity, that means percentages. Plus, if you have nitrogens, then number of nitrogens multiplied by 0.38, because 0.38 is the isotope of nitrogen 15. Then if you have sulfurs, number of sulfurs multiplied by 0.8, because 0.8 is the sulfur 33 atom availability, and plus number of silicons into 5.1 because silicon isotope is 5.1% available. So using this formula, we can easily calculate the M plus 1 intensity. Okay. For example, if we want to calculate M plus 2 peak intensity, we can also calculate this. Number of carbons multiplied by 1.1 whole square divided by 200 plus, because we don't have carbon 14, right? Please mute yourself. Plus number of oxygens into 0.2, because oxygen 18 is 0.2% available, plus number of sulfurs into 4.4, because sulfur 44 is available in 4.4%. So using this formula, we can identify the molecular formula of a given compound from the mass spectrum. Now I will give you how we can identify, how we can practice this concept for CSIR. You know,